And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to welcome tonight debut author AJ Landau, comprised of super secret writing team and not debut authors, the incredible John Land and Jeff Ayers, teaming up for the very first time with their brand new book, Leave No Trace. Now, this is their very first interview together, and they are here to give us the exclusive inside scoop. So, guys, spill the tea. What is this book about?
Leave No Trace is about an ISB agent which is kind of the FBI of the National Park Service, who is one of only two people who can stop a devastating attack on America that centers around destroying the iconic memorials that define the country.
It's Die Hard in the national parks.
Whoa.
Die Hard in the national parks. We will take it.
I'd buy that.
Guys, we have so much to talk about, and I cannot wait to get into all the dirty details, including this star-studded list of blurbs. Oh my God, the star power is blinding. Michael Connelly, Brad Meltzer, Karin Slaughter, the list goes on and on and on. But first, I just want to welcome everybody because we are broadcasting live to 6 different destinations across Facebook and YouTube. So, hey, mystery and thriller loving friends, no matter where you're watching from, you're in the right place. It is the right time. Mystery Monday, and because Mondays can be murder, we're going to get the week off to a killer start. So if you've been here before, you know how it works. And one of you guys has your needs to mute your notifications. So friends and thriller friends, if you've been here before, you know how it works. Just get your questions going in the comments, and I will get them right over to the guys. All right, we have Chris joining us from YouTube. Chris says, hello and welcome back, Sara. Yes, this is my first Mystery Monday of 2024. Thank you for noticing, Chris, and thank you for welcoming me back. So good to see you. Randy joining us from YouTube with his super spooky black cat saying, hi, Sara, John, and Jeff. Thanks for joining us today. Randy, good to see you. Happy New Year. We have a mystery user very on brand saying, hi, John, Jeff, and Sara from Southeast Florida. Hi, friend. Welcome. Somebody saying, who is getting murdered tonight? You never know. These interviews are going to go to the cutthroat place.
Hopefully not me.
John Land fan in the house saying, hi, John Land. Hi, John Land. Indeed.
I have no idea who it is. That's my one fan. I have one fan.
And they're staying very mysterious, as you can see. So we have someone else saying, Happy New Year. Very on brand. I'm loving it. Okay, you guys, let's get into the praise because the praise is truly star-studded. Oh my God. So let's talk first about this particular blurb from Brad Meltzer. He is the New York Times #1 New York Times bestselling author. And he talked about your ability to write an action-packed book. So let's take a peek at this praise all together. An action-packed coast-to-coast thrill ride. Leave No Trace will leave you breathless. Okay, now clearly this is not your first rodeo, either of you. So what have you learned about keeping readers breathless? How do you do it? John Land, kick us off.
Yeah. You know what? It's not rocket science.
Ooh.
Every chapter begins with a hook. And every chapter ends with a cliffhanger. It's basically, keeping the reader in suspense, always wondering what's going to happen next. And as Stephen King has told us, as soon as you close one door, another door appears. Or as soon as you get one door open, there's another door right there. So you never get all of what you need. You get it in little bits and pieces. And the real fun of I'm not an outliner. I'm a pantser. So the greatest thing about this book, there are probably 5 or 6 moments that Jeff and I had never planned. And here's the bottom line, Sara. When you don't know what's going to happen next, the reader can't possibly know what's going to happen next. So I always tell people I can often tell when I read a book, when I read a thriller, when I read especially a thriller, I can often tell when it's outlined because it doesn't ever surprise me. I'm always a step ahead, or at least even. every thriller should have at least 2, 3, 4 mouth-dropping moments when you not only do you surprise the reader, but you also surprise yourself.
Ooh, now I'm intrigued, John Land, because when I had New York Times bestselling author Lee Goldberg on, he said he can always tell when a book is pantsed because it doesn't feel like the author knows where it's going. You, acclaimed book critic extraordinaire, are saying the opposite. You're saying you can tell when it feels too orchestrated. So I am intrigued. Jeff Ayers, what do you think? Give us a scoop.
Well, the original way we started writing this was I had a complete outline for the story. And the truth is I sent it to him and he never read it. So I realized that right away when we were writing that it was okay because it was going in a much better direction. And yeah, so it was originally outlined, but then it wasn't. And one of the other things he mentioned, I think, having short chapters also keeps the pace going super fast because as a reader think, oh, wow, there's a cliffhanger here. I can read one more chapter. Oh, I can go one more chapter. And then next thing you know, you're done with the book.
Okay. So we have one plotter, we have one pantser. The guys are going to arm wrestle later as we take bets. So everybody start thinking about who you want to bet on. Melissa joining us from Australia saying, hi guys. Hi, Sarah. And guys, one of you still needs to mute your notifications. Just close all the windows except for StreamYard. Melissa says, this sounds
That's you, John.
So fascinating. Yes, right, Melissa, this is so fascinating. Okay, we have, from Renee saying, John and Jeff, how did you two get together and how do you work together? Yeah, I think we're all wondering this. So one of you tell us how you got together and one of us tell you, how the heck does this work? Did you each take a turn writing a chapter? Did you dicker over every word? Tell us all the things.
I'll let Jeff start because he's the one who came to me with the concept. He brought it to me, so it's better for him to start off, and then I'll pick up.
The truth is, I tried writing this for a long time and had this idea in my head, and it just go away in this main character who I fell in love with. And every time I tried drafts, it just didn't have that extra oomph it needed. It was just kind of sitting there. And as a thriller, you don't want to just sit there. And I was talking to John, and I said, I have no idea what oomph, I need to find the oomph. And then he looked at me and he said, you need to blow up the Statue of Liberty on page 1. And I said, but the Statue of Liberty is not in the book. And he says, that's exactly right.
It is now.
John Land, bringing the oomph. John Land, bringing the oomph guy. You're the oomph guy. Everybody needs an oomph guy. Okay.
I'm the oomph guy. And I fell in love with the concept because I had never seen it before. And finding an original concept for thrillers is difficult because so many thrillers have been written. So many great thrillers by so many great authors. Everything has been done. So the notion that we could come up with not just a book, but also a series and a brand was really, and how it worked perfectly because I'm a control freak when it comes to writing. And I love the collaborative process, but don't mess with my stuff, right? So Jeff is brilliant at conceptual structure. Because here's the thing, Sarah, writing a book is easy if you have an idea of where you're going. You don't need to know everything, but you need to know enough that you get excited. And keeping yourself in suspense by not knowing anything means that every day you discover something new. Now, to Jeff's credit, he adapted his modus operandi to mine. We would literally, I would write, 30 to 50 pages at a time, send it to Jeff. I'd keep going, and then we'd stop and review his notes, his thoughts. And there was a moment and this is, I think, the essence of collaborative writing. First off, Jeff and I have been working together on other books. Jeff saved a couple of my books. So I knew how brilliant he was at coming up with great ideas. And if you have great ideas, you have a great book. You know, you have a great concept. It's never going to be boring. So we got to what we thought was basically the end of the book. And I said, who's the villain of this book? And we literally had written a villain who wasn't capable of doing what needed to be done. He wasn't capable of putting all the mechanizations of the plot together and put them into motion. So basically, we had a character who's very small. We blew his character up. So he becomes the co-villain and they're working together. And we added, Jeff, I think some of the scenes we added once we decided to expand the general's role with Jeremiah. Mm-hmm. One of the things, I think some of those scenes are popped so beautifully because we knew at that point that the book was finished. And we knew all we had to do was plug these pieces in. By the way, that is very much the way film is. As a screenwriter, I'm very used to getting to the end of something and realizing, wait a minute, something's missing. When I get brought in to rewrite screenplays, a lot of times this is what I do. So I think one of the most important things, if you're writing by yourself, you need to be objective about your own work to know when it's not working. The great thing about working with Jeff was he was there to tell me when it wasn't working, and when either of us identified a problem, because we've worked together for so long and known each other for so long, and it's like we complement each other. My strengths complement Jeff's strengths brilliantly, and my weaknesses Jeff has basically taken care of, which is terrific. He makes up, he compensates for where I'm weak.
But what if your writing partner tells you it's not working and what you really want to say is he's an idiot?
When I found something that wasn't working, I would try to say to him, what if we do this instead? So I
you always agreed with him that it wasn't working.
Yeah, no, it was obvious it wasn't working in my mind.
Right.
Yeah. Yes. It was always about coming up with alternative solutions. And we would spend hours on Zoom together going over our notes and what we want to do next. And it's been great.
Ooh.
You know, now I have to tell you, Sarah.
Tell me, John. Tell me everything.
This is not about this project, but I had just begun a screenplay with another co-writer, right? Another writer, another collaborator. And this is a very important script. So, or at least I thought it was. And I sent it and I called, by the way, to me, Jeff is the wizard. You've heard of the Wizard of Oz. This is the Wizard of Ayers. So I sent it to the wizard. I was going down the yellow brick road and he sent me back an email. Don't hate me. And basically he said everything that my writing partner was so pissed at me that he didn't say. So he nailed it 100%, dead solid, perfect. And I think any writer, and I know a lot of people who are watching tonight or are going to see this when it's archived, who are writers, and never think you can get it all right on your own. I've published 65 books, and 65 of them had perfect first drafts. Every time I finished a first draft, it was this. I finally did it. I finally got everything right the first time. No doubt. I finally did it. And 4 or 5 rewrites later, there you go. So here's the bottom line. Great writers must be great rewriters. And I think if there was ever a class in someone was going to read all the drafts of a book like Leave No Trace and ask the authors why we went away from certain things, why we changed names, why we changed backgrounds, why we added characters who, or why we subtracted characters. It would be a wonderful exercise, because sometimes you're collaborating with yourself or your editors. In this case, we were doing it together. So it was wonderful to have a partner. So I could take a risk and say, Jeff, and I'll give you another example.
Rattlesnake.
There you go. That's the example. This is how well we work together. Jeff had one rule when he brought me onto this project, because this was all Jeff. He brought me on. The concept was all there. So was the outline, which I never read. That's okay. He had one rule: no animals, because it always seems like in all my books there's some killer animal. Whether I've had killer ants, I've had killer beetles, bugs. I've had, you name. I've always seemed to have. If the truth is, I would have written Murders in the Rue Morgue if I was writing in the 19th century instead of Edgar Allan Poe. So the thing about Jeff saying to me, "Don't hate me." Well, I did that to him. I said, "Don't hate me," but there's now a rattlesnake in the book,
and people love that scene. So okay,
there are two things, and there are all these reviews up on Goodreads, which are scary these days because of all the controversy involving book bombing, review bombing on Goodreads. So you really don't know what's going on. But almost all the reviews, even the ones that have not been as favorable as we would have liked, have said two things. They love the rattlesnake, and they love the factoids at the beginning of every chapter.
The factoids are fun.
Yeah,
and fun.
Jeff was 100% responsible for the factoids, and I was 100% responsible for the rattlesnake.
I'm loving this conversation. And John, it looks like we have our very dear mutual friend, Lisa Sharkey, in the house. Hi,
Lisa Sharkey? Oh my God, my favorite person in the world.
No, she's my favorite person, John. Back off.
Now we're going to have to arm wrestle at the end of the...
I'm feeling left out. What's going on?
It's our shared best friend, Lisa Sharkey. Hi, Lisa. We're so happy you're here. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jay Roberts saying you got two fans. Hi,
I got two fans now, and Lisa Sharkey.
Yeah. Hey, it just keeps getting better. Christine joining us from Facebook saying hello from San Jose. Another John Land fan. Hi, Christine. Thank you so much for joining us. Someone saying they got kicked off. Come back on. Renee wants to know, John, what's going to happen next?
In my life or in the book? I have a really boring life. So
okay.
It's not what's going to happen. What is going to happen?
Are you going to write a second book together?
Oh, yes. As a matter of fact,
it's due soon, actually.
It's due soon. And of course, I'm just starting it now. So, but I don't miss deadlines. So it'll be, but here's the thing.
We have it all figured out. So
we think we have it all figured out. Jeff actually came up again. The wizard came up with a brilliant, the book fell together early because I haven't been able to start it because I've been doing so many other things. So what's going to happen next? We're going to start Force of Nature, which is the tentative title for this next one, which is a climate change thriller and has a great MacGuffin. I grew up, by the way, and another writing blurb, another writing thing for writers. Victor Hugo wrote that good writers borrow, great writers steal. And I have stolen so much from the early James Bond movies that starred Sean Connery, the only James Bond, by the way. The first five movies. I think every book every thriller I've ever written is just Ian Fleming and somebody, my Caitlin Strong book, she's a female. She's been called a female James Bond. Blaine McCracken was called James Bond with a sense of humor, a bigger sense of humor. Ben Kamal was called a Palestinian James Bond. So I think I just keep writing the same book over and over again, as many authors do. But though the structure of those James Bond movies, there was always a threat, world domination, same old plan, The Line and Dr. No. But we're still writing those kind of books. Tom Clancy, Robert Ludlum, Clive Cussler, the three of the writers who really influenced my work. So Force of Nature is even more so than Leave No Trace, is a Bondian thriller. So the answer to Sharon's question is yes, we're going to be writing. Hopefully this series goes on forever and we're doing a book a year, knock on wood, for a very long time.
Yep.
But the answer is yes. If that's if Jeff hasn't fired me or killed himself or killed me.
No, I'm having an absolute blast working with John. It's a dream come true, honestly, because truth is I've been reading his books in the early 90s and actually getting to meet him and then becoming friends with him and now actually writing with him. If you told me 30 years ago that this would have happened, I would have said, whatever you're smoking, put it down and, get some professional therapy. So,
there must be a camera you've been looking at Mother Earth dispensary about 5 minutes from my house.
No. Since the audience mostly has not read this book, you mentioned the factoids, and what I wanted to say about those was that was one of the things about our brand that we wanted to do, establish reality and realistic story from the get-go. So the idea is that when you're reading it, you feel like it could actually happen. And when you're reading about the parks and reading about the locations, it's all accurate because we've done the research. So we talked to the people on the ground. We talked to rangers. We talked to FBI agents. The ISB, which is the FBI, the Park Service, actually exists. That was one question we've been asked a lot. Well, did you make that up? The answer is no, it actually does exist. And there's 34 agents across the entire Park Service, and I got to actually shadow one for a day, which was amazing.
And we have a great question here coming from Christine. She says, but how can it be a park without animals? So Christine, that's a really interesting point that you're raising. So I did not know that the Statue of Liberty was actually a national park until I read this book. I learned a lot about this book. I learned a lot from this book, from
it's a memorial.
Factoids and from the
book.
It's
a monument.
So tell us about that, you guys.
I'll let Jeff
about animals.
Jeff is
so there's 63 national parks around, and that includes places like American Samoa, Virgin Islands, the lower 48 in Alaska, and Hawaii. And there are also sites that the Park Service oversees, including monuments and seashores and memorials and historical sites. And that numbers total over around 430. So the park, you can actually do something with the Park Service and not have an animal, especially if you're at a historical site.
You can have a rattlesnake, though.
You can have
a rattlesnake in a park. Yes.
You can have a rattlesnake.
I think, Christine, you're asking a really good question, though, because I think I sure didn't know that the Statue of Liberty was a national park. I didn't know very much about national parks before I read this book, and I really did love those little factoids that you guys were included. So, Christine, thank you for watching with us. Thank you for the great question. You guys, we have questions pouring in here, and I want to get to every single one of them. Sharon joining us from YouTube saying hi from Massachusetts. Annalie saying another vote for the effectiveness of short chapters. Absolutely.
Nice.
Hi, Annalie.
Jay saying, John always kept me entertained with jaw-dropping action and holy cow moments, even in his Murder, She Wrote books. Shout out for your Murder, She Wrote series there.
Yeah, I wrote 6 in that series until they fired me. That happens. And, I ghostwrite a lot now. And the interesting thing is when I ghostwrite for my clients, my name goes on the book. But writing as A.J. Landau, you have to go to Amazon or somewhere else to find out. So my name isn't on this book, but it's on all the books I quote ghostwrite. And I did Murder, She Wrote, and now I'm doing Capital Crimes. So you're picking up an existing series, but to my benefit and to my detriment, when I take something over, I make it my own. I take ownership. And my predecessor with Murder, She Wrote, and this is something for writers, he had never watched a single episode of Murder, She Wrote. And
oh my God, who is this mutant?
Yeah, I mean, he never had seen the story, the TV series with Angela Lansbury, who I dedicated one of the books to, and she liked it on Facebook. I was very excited.
Oh my God.
I was like, whoa, Angela Lansbury liked my post. So when he wrote the first book that could have been the last in the series, he has Jessica driving a car. Well, so when I took over the series, being familiar with I found the books unreadable. Right. I found the books literally, I mean, why is anybody going to read this? It's terrible. Sorry, but that's if you always tell the truth, you never have to remember what you said. So I said, I want to go back to the series. I want to go back to the cliffhangers that preceded each commercial. So you had to keep watching in the 1 minute commercial. You had 8 commercial breaks. There had to be 8 cliffhangers. So the books had to have cliffhangers. And I went back to classic episodes like Murder Takes the Bus, which became the basis for the Murder of 12, which was the Murder, She Wrote version of And Then There Were None. And I'll tell you, I know in my heart, these were the 6 best books that will ever be written in the series, especially The Murder of 12, which is one of my, which I put right at the top of all my books.
It was a great book.
It was, so, but Jay's point is that when writing, whatever I'm writing, if I'm writing a phone book, I have to keep you turning the pages. So the rules that I apply to writing fiction apply 100% to all my nonfiction. And I've got some incredible, Lisa Sharkey is on, and I've gotten to know Lisa, and we've been working together for 5 incredibly intensive months on a project that I have absolutely loved every minute writing. And when people read it, they're going to think I made a lot of it up. Because that's how great a story it is. But it's 100% true. 100%.
Those are the best.
Yeah, and the difference is my fiction doesn't normally have to go through a legal review. Well, this went through a lengthy one because there was a lot of stuff where people would not have been happy with how they were portrayed and stuff like that. But the other thing we're talking about Lisa, Jeff and I have a wonderful team at Minotaur. And I was so lucky when when I ended up a part of this team at HarperCollins. There's nothing more important to a writer than to have a supportive team that's publishing you. To have a team that believes in you, and that when the editor gives us notes, it's not because they don't like the book. It's because they want to make the book better. They're giving thoughts, and that is identical in fiction and nonfiction. So the nonfiction writers out there, all these same rules apply. Cliffhangers, hooks, writing engaging characters that the audience wants to root for. Because if your hero is someone no one cares about, the book is not going to work and they're going to put it down.
I love that. Melissa's saying, go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, when we're talking about rewriting and things like that, when we turned in the book to our editor, we thought, okay, cool. I had no idea there'd be 4 more rewrites after that. It's amazing. So writing is rewriting, to quote someone I know.
Writing is rewriting. Melissa saying she loves your enthusiasm and she will read this book just because of that. Melissa, what a perfect note to end on. So you guys, this book is not out yet. It was originally supposed to be out this week, but it got, when I booked these guys 6 months ago, but the pub date has gotten pushed forward to February 27th. So you can pre-order tonight from our favorite woman-owned independent bookstore. That is, of course, Murder by the Book. And the good folks
Please.
at Murder by the Book will send you this book the moment the book drops, which is February 27th. So whether you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, here is the link so that you can grab Leave No Trace and get your mitts on this fascinating story with the great factoids at the top of every chapter. So here is that link, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Click and pre-order now. Okay, I want to get some more of these amazing questions because everybody's so excited to talk to you guys. I'm just scanning through here because we've got so many. This is so great. Okay, so Sharon wants to know who gets to pick the titles. So tell us the story of the title.
Jeff?
In this particular case, they liked Leave No Trace. And the Leave No Trace comes from when I was in Acadia National Park. Walking down one of the paths, they have signs around saying "Leave no trace," meaning you don't leave a trace of yourself for visiting the park. And I just thought, there's a title, and I loved it. And the one we're working on now had an initial title of Glacier Bay, which our publisher did not like. So that's why we're tentatively going with Force of Nature. We also liked Frozen Silence. We're debating. If you like, which one of those two do you like, folks, who's watching this? Frozen Silence or Force of Nature? Anyway, but we've been lucky in the sense that we were able to pick the titles. In terms of the cover, they noticed the cover and we loved it. And in terms of, you mentioned audiobooks earlier, I understand the audiobook has been done and we haven't heard anything from it yet. I'm looking forward to hearing it.
Ooh, Sharon is saying that's nice. I agree. I will say I hosted Jane Harper, New York Times bestselling author from Australia, for her book Force of Nature. So I voted for the other one because I already hosted that one.
There's traces out there too.
Randy says, "Hey y'all, we need to show Jeff some love too."
I'm feeling the love. It's all good, Randy. And I want to say hi to your team.
Thank you. Jay saying, "John, speaking of Ben Kamal, I'm still holding out hope for a new Kamal Barnea book."
Well, there's good things come to those who wait, but not very quickly. I've never ended a series because I wanted to. I always ended a series because the sales weren't what they needed to be anymore. And a lot of that is not my fault. It's the way you write a great book. And in my case, I'm a creature of paperback, mass market. That's where I grew up. That's where my first 13 books were mass market originals. They were the best-selling books I've ever had in my career. That was back in the days of Walden Books, when there were 4 times as many books sold out of airport, 4 or 5 times as many different titles that were sold out of airports, train stations. When mass market died, I had to reinvent who I was, because that was always what determined my value in the marketplace to a publisher. I could always sell a lot of paperbacks. Now nobody can sell mass market because there's just no place to buy them anymore. Sure, it's come back a little bit. So one of the things I tell writers about this business is you have to be resilient. You have to be able to deal with adversity more than when people say, "What do I need to do?" Well, you got to be a writer. Well, you got to be a great storyteller, because there's nothing else happens if you're not a great storyteller. But if you're not resilient and you're not a team player, but resilient, because if you're not going to get back off the mat when you get knocked down, this is not the business for you. Not at all. You have to be someone who gets up again.
I should mention for John Land fans, there's a cameo by one of his more famous characters at the end of this book.
That's right. I'm so glad. We actually wrote a character into the book by accident. This was not planned. We have Native Americans have been protective of the environment more than anyone else, any other culture, for centuries.
Yes.
So we added the character of a Native American boy, 18 years old, who becomes a pretty major character. And because now I'm giving something away here to my fans, but because of that, I said, Jeff, I have an idea. What if one of the ways we brand the series, at this point, we kind of knew it was going to be a loosely kept secret that we were going to be the author, that people were going to know who we are. So I added, we committed ourselves to adding a cameo at the end where one of my most iconic, beloved characters returns for a brief scene. And now it's like, do we do this every book?
The answer is yes. And I've already told him I want to see other characters of his that I've loved making a cameo appearance. And in fact, I would love to see Ben come back as well. So, yeah, I'm like you.
Yeah, there you go. I'd like to see them all. I wish I was still writing all of them, but one thing, necessity is the mother.
I'd be reading.
That's what that's what the cool kids call an Easter egg. So that everybody loves an Easter egg when you hide that. Someone is saying very cool. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Randy says his vote is for Glacier Bay. Sharon,
that's my vote.
Sharon votes for Frozen Silence. Someone else voting for Frozen Silence. Renee saying she's going to pre-order your book. Thank you so much, Renee.
Renee, thank you. I wish I could see you.
Someone else, I'm scrolling back because I saw a really good question. I want to make sure I get to it. Okay. So Jeff is asking, will you have any in-person signing events for this book?
Where's Jeff? It's obviously.
I was going to say, I'm asking.
Sorry. No, Jay is asking if you're having any signing events, John and Jeff.
Yeah. We are still trying to figure that out. The discussion right now is that we're looking at doing an event with the National Park Conservation Association in Washington, D.C. And that would be the launch for the book. And then also we're hoping to go to Murder by the Book, which we love. So, yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. So, guys, if you do want a signed book, put in the comments that you would like it signed and say what you want it signed to. Happy birthday to yourself. Happy birthday to your mom, to your favorite thriller lover. And the guys will customize it when they go to Murder by the Book, when the book comes out in February. Renee wants to know, where do you both live?
I live in Seattle.
John, where are you?
Providence, Rhode Island.
Providence, Rhode Island. Jeff, you're in Seattle, Washington. So you're across the country, 63 national parks between you, 3,000 miles, but somehow it is still working. Jay saying, John Landau put out 65 books. I'm pretty sure I have all of them signed. So we need to make sure that Jay gets a signed copy of Leave No Trace as well.
We'll make it happen. Yep. Gotta make sure.
We're getting lots of love from the audience. Guys, I wanted to talk to you about this this review from we've got so many to talk about. I mean, First Clue calling it a breakneck paced story. Michael Connelly is the one I'm looking for. Hold on for Wesley. James Rollins. James Rollins saying, from its opening barn burner of a shocker to his throat clutching conclusion, Leave No Trace left me breathless. Don't miss this debut, especially with the process of more mayhem to come. Lisa Gardner saying Landau explodes onto the scene. See what she did there.
Breathless again.
With this breathless thriller. I know. Apparently you guys have got, that's why I wanted to ask you what the secret is, because you've got breathless.
My wife said, how many of these people who are writing blurbs need oxygen after reading your book?
I think probably a lot based on the praise. Guys, is there anything, we have just 3 minutes left. Is there anything that you wish I had asked or want to share with our audience?
I just want to say I'm loving working with John. I think folks who love national parks and love thrillers enjoy this book.
John, how about from you?
I think for the writers out there, if you want a textbook example of how to structure a thriller, use Leave No Trace as a template, because it is the classically designed 3-act structure, beginning, middle, and end. There is a break into the third. This is screenwriting talk, but there's a break. The third act breaks, when the biggest twist in the book drops, we're into the climax. You know, there are moments. So it's just read it for enjoyment, number one, but for structure. I always tell people, find authors. Again, good writers borrow, great writers steal. Find authors that you love so much. Who are the people that made you want to be a writer?
Ooh.
Always have, the way I get geared up to start writing is I have a book, series of books, because it takes me a while to write a book. And I always start out by reading a chapter or a few chapters to get myself in the mindset. And I also never stop at the end of a scene. I always write beyond the end of a scene into the beginning of the next scene. So just like I'm kind of cliffhangering myself.
Ooh.
So those are a couple little tidbits that if you read this book, knowing that, you'll be able to see exactly how I practice, how Jeff and I practice what we preach. So it's also a primer on making people who read it better thriller writers themselves.
Ooh, I love that. And someone in the audience is just saying, I think it's Renee saying, please post the StreamYard link. Yes, I'm sorry. If you're in a private Facebook group, we're broadcasting to 3 private Facebook groups. Everyone else in the group can see you, but the people outside cannot. So here is that link. It's just streamyard.com/Facebook, and you can enable privacy settings there so we can see your beautiful photo if you so choose. Jeff, how about you? What do you want to tell people?
Well, in addition to working with John, I also am a book reviewer. So I review for a couple different sites. You mentioned First Clue, for example. That review that my boss sent was stunning. I was so glad she liked it. I also am the co-executive director for Thriller Fest that the National Thriller Writers hosts every year. And then I'm also working on a companion guide for fans of Douglas Preston and Lincoln Child. I'm under contract to do a companion book for them.
Oh, very cool. Well, for everybody who's wondering, Thriller Fest is the premier conference for thriller fanatics, thriller enthusiasts, readers, writers, fans, lovers of the genre.
That's how we met.
So I'm going to post the link for Thriller Fest. Both John and Jeff will be there May 28th through June 1st in New York City in Times Square. So here is the link for Thriller Fest if anyone cares to join the guys there. You can come hang out with us there. I will be there as well. You guys, I want to thank you so much for coming on. It has been such a pleasure to talk with you and get the inside scoop on your writing. So once again, you got friends, this is John and Jeff, aka AJ Landau's very first event ever together, and they are giving Mystery and Thriller Mavens the exclusive inside scoop. So if you want to get your mitts on Leave No Trace, here again is that link. Whether you're watching with us on Facebook or YouTube, you can click and pre-order, and the good folks at Murder by the Book will send this out. And when and if the guys do go there, they will sign and personalize your book to you. Just put in the comments how you want it signed. I always make the author sign to my best friend Sarah. So I have like 50 books that I make people do that. Jeff, remember when I did that to who did I make? Oh, Jack Carr. It's so good.
Yeah, I remember that.
I'm going to get a copy of Leave No Trace and make you guys sign it to your best friend Sarah as well. That's my fun thing. So you can make them say anything. That's the best part. So just put it in the comments and we will get you your copy of Leave No Trace. AJ Landau, aka John and Jeff, thank you so much for coming on to give us the inside scoop. And when you come back with Frozen Glacier Bay,
Frozen Silence. Frozen Silence.
Frozen Glacier. Frozen Leave No Trace, Frozen Traces. Oh, Sharon's saying she loves it. Isn't it so fun, Sharon? You can make them say, happy birthday to my best friend. You can make them say anything. That's the best part about it. Christine's saying she loves that too. Oh, hi, John Hebert. Thanks for joining us from Northeast Ohio. All right, you guys, that is a wrap. Come back when Frozen Glacier, Leave No Trace, book number 2 comes out next year. We will look forward to seeing you then. All right, you guys, I'll be back at the top of the hour with debut author Peter Malone Elliott. Go get yourself a snack, a drink, and get your butt back in that seat. I'll see you soon.